Over the weekend, hundreds of thousands of people showed up in the UK to protest austerity. By some accounts, 500,000 people in London alone. Tens of thousands of people show up in California to protest the same austerity that's being implemented there. Now, a couple years ago, your government official had no problem showering trinkets in your community. Cash for culkers, cash for clunkers, $8,000 tax credit. This was all gimmicks. This was all chump change that was spent while the greatest crime in the history of the planet was going on. While this transfer of failure was put onto your back, trinkets were handed out so the public wouldn't freak out. Well, here we sit 2 years later, and a lot of people were saying austerity will hit here, and now it has hit. Unrest in California, unrest in Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. It's not going to stop. It's going to continue to spread. These same government officials now will go before the cameras and they'll pick the softest, fattest, easiest target there is first, and that is unions. It's easy to go after unions when only 7% of the private sector workforce is in a union and only 35% of the government sector workforce is in a union. It's easy to go after that target first. But if you think it's going to stop there, then you're absolutely not living in reality. You could give back every single penny earned in salary in this country, some $9 trillion a year, and it wouldn't even start to scratch the surface of our admitted national debt. Not let alone the trillions of dollars the Federal Reserve spent on your behalf, let alone the trillions and trillions of dollars in guarantees to the too big to fail. The fact of the matter is, the greatest crime in the history of the planet has occurred, and now it's going to be asked of you to pay for it. And the rhetoric from the mainstream media is what? They're playing along with the propaganda game of hate thy neighbor, blame the guy next door for the condition of the country. And in fact, we even have a situation now where the Comptroller General of our currency, John Walsh, is stating before Congress last week that the mortgage foreclosure scam that 50 states' attorney generals have signed on to, he says it's not that big a deal. You know, out of the sampling they found, it's a very, very small percentage. Most of these foreclosures were handled correctly. Well, this story I'll attach shows they sampled 2,800 foreclosures in 2010 to see if there was any faulty filing on them. There was over 1 million foreclosures in this country last year. There's going to be even more than that this year. And a few of the attorneys that are suing on behalf of these people being thrown out of their house illegitimately, sometimes without even missing a payment, sometimes having no clue whatsoever that they were going to get foreclosed on. They just show up to home one day and they got a notice of foreclosure. Joe Klein, an attorney, says without exception, in every single case he's looked at, it's been fraudulent. There's been zero chain of custody. But see, the names at the bottom of this article will explain why nothing will be done, why a little slap on the wrist is all that's going to happen. Because you look into it and you see who's being investigated. BOA, Citi, GMAC, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, HSBC. The too big to fails are the ones who have sank this economy, been completely bailed out, made whole and healthy, making more money than ever before. Now they get to foreclose on the houses illegally, and you have our comptroller general who just wants to slap a little fine on them outside of the suit of the attorney generals. This system needs to have civil unrest. We need to have more people out in the streets protesting. The fact of the matter is, we have 1.621 million bankruptcies this year. We're going to have more foreclosures this year than last year. And today we're sitting at, according to nationaldebtclock.org, 44.5 million people on food stamps and a real unemployed number of 24 million people. Now, I don't care what the Dow Jones says, what the Federal Reserve manipulated Dow Jones says. This is the economy you live in. The people you know, the friends and family you have that can't find a job or have been out for 2 years, who are now going to be public enemy number one because they're a 99er. Or they're going to be public enemy number one because they're a part of the 35% that draws their paycheck from the government. These people are not the enemy. The enemies are the same too big to fail who are kicking people out of their houses after they've already been paid off on the back end, after they've chopped up their mortgages and turned it into this monster derivative nightmare and thrown it onto the backs of the citizens of the world. They're the enemy. They're the ones we should be out in the street protesting. They're the ones we need to demand we see justice from. We need to have people perp walk, put into jail. And the more civil unrest that arises in this country, this is the message we need to put forward. Hold accountable the people who sank this economy. Hold accountable the people who sold your financial future down the river. And hold the people who've taken a once great republic and is turning it into the world's largest banana republic. Stories are attached. That's all I got.